Good morning, Enid. It is Thursday, May 9th. Glad to see you. Thanks for joining us for the next 30 minutes as we provide news, weather, sports, and special guests. And we're going to be talking about stroke awareness. And it's going to be a great topic for us this morning. Thank you for joining us. We are coming to you live on local cable television, Channel 12, and in high definition on 112, and also live streaming around the globe at enidtv.org. So we're glad that you're with us. And this is Good Morning Enid, and as we always say, it's time to rise and shine.
Good morning, Enid. Thank you again for joining us on this Thursday morning. It's been a little bit chillier with these storms. Let's see if these are going to continue. Looks like it's currently sitting at about 48 degrees and going to get to a high of 51 later today, so not going to get much warmer, unfortunately. Low tonight of 41, and there is another chance of rain, so this rain is not stopping yet.
And just for the fact it is May 9th,
Yeah.
that's kind of October temperatures or November temperatures.
Yeah.
I had all intentions of a short sleeve golf shirt today for the show, and then I realized it was 40-some degrees, and I go, let's try something else. But it's Oklahoma. We are so privileged and just pleased to have special guest today from INTEGRIS, Matthew Thoms, with us. Matthew, good morning, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Yes.
Looking forward to hearing what you have to say, because we know stroke awareness is a key topic, and that's why you're here, and we look forward to that. And I'm going to do the 3-day weather forecast, and then we'll have Matthew help us here in just a few moments with the weather. Everybody's looking forward to the big weekend. Mother's Day is Sunday. Keep that in mind. Hint, hint. So Friday's in the 60s. So we got some kind of fallish temperature for Friday, Saturday, and looks like really the next couple days will be on the cloudy side. But Sunday for Mom looks pretty good. Mostly sunny, and the highs in the 70s. So I don't know about you, Matthew, but this calendar really goes quick. And here it is, another, Mother's Day. It was just Valentine's Day. It seemed like 2 weeks ago. So, well, Matthew's going to help us with our record temps. And typical Oklahoma fashion, extremes, right?
Extremes indeed. High comes from 2011, a high of 99, and in 1909 it was 34 degrees on this day.
Looks like we're close to that bottom one right now, 41 tonight.
That's true. It's really amazing. So, well, let's move on. School is at least another 2 weeks, I think. Graduation may be May 23rd, a Thursday or something like that. So we're rounding third base, heading home for school. But let's take a look at the menus.
Looks like we're having burritos and chili. I think I am going to go to school today. I do like burritos. Burritos, chili, zucchini and ranch, steamed corn, oatmeal raisin cookie, fresh strawberries, and milk. I think today sounds really good, actually. You don't like that?
I kind of like fries.
Cheeseburger, pork and beans, fresh carrots with ranch, pickle slices, diced peaches, and milk. I thought you liked oatmeal raisin cookies.
Well, now that I see the oatmeal raisin, I'm going to go to school Thursday. Matthew, we always have a discussion which day we're going to go to school on, based on the menu.
It's the only reason, yeah.
Not the criteria of education. It's on the menu is when we go. Okay, it's 7:33, and we want to just kind of go provide you some of the top stories that happened overnight. There's a lot of things going on in Oklahoma and around the globe. But right here in our own backyard, the splash pad, will open up on Friday. Tomorrow. Miniature golf gets open this weekend. The paddle boats, everybody's talking about the paddle boats. That'll open up on May 23rd, which is Thursday. And besides Mom's Day on Sunday, this Saturday, May 11, is Stamp Out Hunger Day. So leave a canned good at the mailbox if you can on Saturday, and the mail person will pick that up on Saturday. And across the state, former OU President David Bourne asked for a meeting with the OU Board of Regents to get that issue resolved. And Game 5, if you're an NBA fan, the Warriors finally won Game 5. They beat Houston last night 104-99. That was a West Coast show or a West Coast game. There's no way I was staying up for that. Okay, and we have a little bit of Enid history that we want to share with you at this time. And our good friend Paul Allen and David McLaughlin founded Advanced Food Company in Oklahoma. And is that base manufacturer of hamburger patties and breaded beef. And after joining forces with Pierre Foods, transitioned to a public entity, now a wholly owned subsidiary of Tyson Foods. So what a transition. And I've met both gentlemen. They are salt of the earth folks. They are great guys, and we appreciate that they're part of the Enid community. And then I think we also have some kind of on this day in history. Aaron, I'll let you help me out on this. This may be something of interest to a lot of women.
Yes, so today, May 9th in 1960, the FDA approves the world's first commercially produced birth control called Enovid 10. So the pill is made by G.D. I don't know how to pronounce his name, Searle, back in Chicago. So in 1960, this is when birth control was first approved.
And Aaron, we're in luck. We have a physician assistant with us to say, how do you pronounce that?
Yeah.
The medication?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, I practice cardiology.
Okay.
Enovid would be my guess.
Okay. We typically do not put our guest on the spot, so I apologize, Matthew, but we thought, you know, with our medical background, we figured, hey, he'll know.
He speaks Latin. It's
Yeah,
fine.
yeah, that's good. So anyway, that's 1960. Man, where does time go? It's interesting. Okay, we'd like to honor one of our good friends of the Enid Television Network. Oh, I'm sorry. If you have any photos of graduation, Mother's Day pictures, anything like that, please feel free to send those to gme@enid.org. Just email us those pictures and we'll put those on. And now we can talk about our friend Frank Watermelon Campbell. Frank's going to turn 98 on May 11th, I believe. And so we want to say happy birthday, early birthday to Watermelon Campbell. Watermelon, again, his first name is Frank, is a Walk of Fame member here in Enid, has quite a history. His photo there is at the Railroad Museum. If you have not visited the Railroad Museum here in Enid, Oklahoma, please make a trip to Enid, or just from your home if you live here in Enid, and go to the Railroad Museum. All types of memorabilia, and Watermelon is just a walking encyclopedia of anything to do with railroads, so keep that in mind. So on May 11, we want to say happy 98th birthday to Watermelon Campbell. Okay, it's 7:37, it's time for Aaron, and what's happening?
We have a bunch of things going on this weekend. Starting us off is the Gaslight Theatre is presenting The Normal Heart, and that starts on Friday and runs through Sunday, and it is also next weekend if you can't catch it this weekend. It's 8 p.m. on Friday and Saturday and 2 p.m. on Sunday. Tickets are $15 for adults, $12 for military, and $8 for students. What it's about is it is about a drama about public and private indifference to the AIDS plague and a man's fight to awaken the world to this crisis. Contains adult language and themes, so it is not appropriate for all audiences, but is a great performance. After this, we have the Walk MS Enid 2019 at Meadow Lake Park. That is this Saturday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., and it is the annual walk that is held every spring to raise funds for the awareness of multiple sclerosis. And this is 1 mile and 3 mile options. There's going to be music, food, and vendors with promotional items, so it's going to be really fun, and it's for a great cause. After that, we have the Frog Invasion at Garfield County Courthouse Lawn, and that is this Saturday from 10:30 a.m. to 12 p.m. It is a family-friendly event celebrating frogs, so if you love frogs, this is definitely a great event. There's going to be scavenger hunts, frog crafts, games, face painting, and races, and it is going to be a lot of fun. So if you love frogs, definitely go to this on Saturday, and that's what's happening.
Very good. Busy weekend as usual. I know your parents from Minnesota watch from time to time. Do you have a Mother's Day message that you want to send to your mom?
Yeah, sure. Mom, I love you so much. Thanks for all the support, and have a great Mother's Day.
So they're always watching their daughter.
That's right.
Via technology. So anyway, Mom's Day is coming up. We appreciate that. Matthew Thoms from INTEGRIS is our special guest. We're going to be talking about the stroke awareness, prevention, and everything to do with stroke in just a few moments. But before we do that, we've got a great video that Charlotte Ringwald has put together for us, and it's all about so you want to adopt a pet. You know, it's great to have a puppy on Christmas morning, but those puppies get big later on. You want to make sure you're doing the right decision. Let's watch that, and we'll be back with our special guest.
Meet little Sally. Sally has wanted a dog for a long time. Today, Sally's family is thinking of adopting a pet. They're taking a trip to their local pound. Nowadays, they call them animal shelters. This particular shelter is open to the public with regular hours every day. The dog kennels are a noisy and scary place for some dogs. Some dogs are excited to see new people. Some dogs are afraid. Once Sally's found a dog she likes, she can meet and play with the dog in the lobby or outdoor pens. This is a good time to see if the dog is a good fit for you and your family. But wait a minute, Sally. Are you sure you're ready for the responsibility of caring for a dog? Dogs need more than just food and water every day. They need attention, training, exercises, enrichment, regular grooming, and trips to the vet. Well, of course, Sally. Mom and Dad will help you. A pet is a family's responsibility. Don't forget, dogs can live 15 to 20 years. A lifetime commitment for a pet can be a long time. Once you've found the perfect match for your family, the shelter's friendly staff will help you with the paperwork. There are several local vets that you can choose from. Once you pick one, you pay the shelter the price to get a rabies shot and getting the animal fixed. Remember, neutering for boys, spaying for girls. You'll receive a yellow receipt that you bring to the vet you chose. Call that vet's office to schedule an appointment for your new pet. Bring your new family member to the vet. Don't forget to bring the yellow receipt. That's your payment. Your vet may recommend other vaccinations, treatments, or preventions. It's up to you and your vet. Don't forget to bring your rabies vaccination to get your city license for the year. All pets have to be registered through the city every year. It's been this way since the good old days. A new pet is a big responsibility, but it's even a bigger enhancement to any family. Stop by your local animal shelter and adopt a pet today.
Well done. Welcome back to Good Morning Enid on this Thursday, May 9th. And holding steady at 48 degrees. And if you're planning your wardrobe, it's going to be just really around 51. It's not going to warm up too much today. May is Stroke Awareness Month, and Matthew Thoms is with us from INTEGRIS. We appreciate Matthew being with us today. As a physician assistant, kind of tell us what your role is and things that you're involved in, Matthew.
Sure. Well, I do exclusively cardiovascular medicine at the INTEGRIS Heart and Vascular Institute here in Enid. For the most part, I work with Dr. John Schrader, spend a little time with some of the other guys that are there as well, but mostly clinical medicine in the cardiovascular specialty.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're glad you're here. Thanks for being here today.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. As Steve mentioned, it is Stroke Awareness Month. So could you tell me what are the 5 signs of a stroke? The 5 main warning signs of a stroke.
Right.
If there's 5.
Yeah, if there's 5, or if there's more or less.
There are 5 or more than that, but a number of years ago, the American Stroke Association came up with the mnemonic FAST to kind of simplify that list a little bit. And I think it's preferable to the 5. The 5 can be difficult for folks to remember. And, you know, really the cardinal sign that you're looking for in a stroke is asymmetry. So if you think of the mnemonic FAST, F stands for face. Is there asymmetry in the face? If you smile, does one side of the mouth go up and the other one is kind of holding still? Or if you try to squeeze your eyes together, is it just one eye that's you know, has the strength? If you go back again to the mnemonic, FAST, arms would be the A. If you try to hold your arms up, does one drop prematurely? Or are you able to make a tight fist with one hand but not the other? And then speech, that's the S. And that is difficult to really define, but are you having trouble speaking? Can you form your words? Are you able to think of the words that you need to put into the sentence and where they should be inserted? So any abnormalities of speech. And then the T is not really a sign, it's time. It's just to remind us that time is of the essence in a stroke event. You need to call 911.
Matthew, I've heard of the term mini stroke. Is there such thing as a mini stroke?
That is a great question. It's a phrase that most of us in medicine kind of wish would fade away. A mini stroke is what most people call a mini stroke is actually a TIA, or a transient ischemic attack. And the reason we don't really like the phrase mini stroke is that a TIA is not a stroke. It is a red flag saying you need to do something or you will have a stroke. So the difference being that in a stroke, you actually have damage to brain tissue, and in a TIA, or what someone might refer to as a mini stroke, it's a warning sign, but without damage to the brain tissue. You look for 24 hours as kind of the marker that all symptoms will have completely resolved within 24 hours. And if they do, then it's a TIA.
And if you see any of these symptoms in someone, or if you suspect a stroke in yourself, what should you do after you start to see these signs?
Right, so if you are at home or somewhere outside of a medical facility and you begin to see signs like that and you're suspicious, you know, the FAS sort of signs are showing themselves, honestly, the very first thing you want to do is just call 911, because in a stroke situation, time is everything. The longer that event goes on, the more brain tissue damage occurs. In rare situations, there could be a need for CPR, but that's unusual. Obviously, if they're not breathing, if they don't have a heartbeat, CPR would be appropriate. Aspirin is not typically recommended if you suspect a stroke. You know, in the case of a heart attack, people should chew up an aspirin. But in a stroke, it can actually do more damage than good, because there are different types of strokes. Some types of strokes are actually helped by aspirin, but others are made worse. And since you don't know when you're at home which kind of stroke you're having, avoid the aspirin. It is important to kind of take note of what time those symptoms started, because when you are in a healthcare facility, the time is important when it comes to what treatment is going to be administered.
Matthew, in preparation of our visit this morning, I saw the phrase silent stroke. Can you kind of share with us what that term is, or
it is
that another term that needs to go away, or
not necessarily? It is surprising how often, you know, we find evidence of a silent stroke when we take imaging of someone's brain for maybe another reason entirely, and we go, well, you've had a stroke at some point, and they don't realize that. Now, sometimes that occurs just because the area of brain that is involved is so tiny that symptoms are, you know, almost just not there. Other times, people are just a little bit stubborn, and they'll, you know, kind of ignore those symptoms.
invincible, maybe?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if they ignore those symptoms, is it possible for the stroke to go away on its own?
Technically, no, because again, think of those definitions. Stroke means brain tissue damage. That doesn't go away. So again, going back to the TIA, that is something that resolves spontaneously, but a stroke by definition could not just go away.
I think you've kind of touched on this a little bit. My next question is, can a stroke go unnoticed? I guess maybe a person could ignore the symptoms to some degree or whatever. They are invincible, or they are busy, or they say, oh, not me, or whatever. So is that a possibility? Have you basically encountered anyone that just kind of, it was just unnoticed to them?
Absolutely. Now, as a general rule, as I said, I find those when we image someone's brain for another reason, and then we see evidence of something that occurred sometime previous, and and sometimes they'll not even be aware that it happened. They'll say, well, I don't remember anything like that happening. Other times they'll recall, oh yeah, there was that time, you know.
With you just
it
saying,
happens.
When you just saying that, it reminded me of a time that my mother had passed out. She was living by herself, and she was cooking, and she woke up and found herself on the floor. And then months later, when we found out that she had had a mini stroke, if we can use that. But it was one of those things that she just thought she was tired and was, you know, passed out. But I guess that's one of those things that go unnoticed. So.
Yes, it can.
What are like the main causes of strokes? Like I've heard stress might be one of them. I don't know if that's true or not, but what are the main causes?
Because Aaron's in the engineering department, you know,
of
with
stress.
Yes. And it's my
concern.
finals week this week, so.
Yeah.
So when we talk about strokes come in basically two forms. A blood clot that occludes a blood vessel in the brain, and so everything downstream is then starved of oxygen and nutrition, or a rupture in one of those blood vessels. and the same result. If the blood is leaking out through a ruptured blood vessel, then everything downstream is starved. So we're talking about something that physically interrupts blood flow to tissue downstream. Stress being something that cannot physically block blood flow to a vessel is not a cause of a stroke. Not to say that it can't be a contributor in certain ways, but certainly wouldn't be a direct cause.
You've already mentioned to us that when you do a test of the brain or I guess photos of the brain or whatever, you can determine if there's been a stroke or not.
Yes.
So this may not be a valid question about can a blood test, can that give you any hints that there had been a stroke or anything?
A blood test really cannot diagnose stroke. Now, blood tests are an extremely important part of evaluating stroke,
Okay.
because they can certainly help determine what might have caused a person's stroke. And not everything that looks like a stroke is necessarily a stroke, and so a blood test can be also helpful when we're trying to look for other things that can mimic a stroke. So, you know, if you show up in an emergency department with signs and symptoms of a stroke, blood work is going to be an important part of that evaluation, but there's not really a blood test that will show
Sure.
stroke.
My next question is probably really broad, but what is the best treatment for a stroke? It probably depends patient to patient, doesn't it?
It very much depends. That's exactly right. And, you know, I mentioned a moment ago that strokes really come in two varieties, whether it's blockage by a blood clot that prevents the blood flow or a ruptured blood vessel. Determining which of those two types of strokes is going to be the first step in treating, because they're treated very differently. And then there's a lot of other factors in there. You know, have they had surgery? Have they had strokes previously? What's their blood pressure? So really, when you talk about the appropriate treatment of a stroke, that all begins with finding answers to those questions and then sort of outlining the best treatment line. Yeah.
Matthew, we have one more question before we move on to another part of our show. Who is most risk for stroke?
Age does play a role. The older you get, the more likely you are to have a stroke. Smoking is a major factor in smoking. One pack of cigarettes per day increases your risk of stroke 6-fold. So that's a significant risk factor. Uncontrolled hypertension, certain heart rhythm issues like atrial fibrillation, especially in those who don't take blood thinners and antiplatelet drugs like are prescribed. And folks that have had a stroke in the past. You know, all of those are big risk factors.
Okay. You've been a wealth of information, and we expected that, so thank you for sharing all this information.
Certainly.
We'll have more questions with Matthew Thoms here in just a few moments. It's 7:52 on this Thursday morning. Thank you for joining us here on Good Morning Enid. And let's see if we can do a little weather update with current temperature. Aaron?
Yes, it is pretty chilly right now, about 48 degrees. Only going to get up to a high of 51 later today, so it is not going to warm up significantly. Low tonight of 41 and a chance of rain, so this rain is going to keep continuing.
And the main thing I noticed this morning, besides the cloudy skies, was that pretty brisk northerly wind out of the north, 15 or so miles per hour. And as we're preparing for the weekend, yard work, or just maybe for things to dry out, it doesn't look like we're going to see the sun until Mother's Day. And that's good. We want a great day for Mom. And so it looks like Sunday's going to be the best of the 3-day forecast, low 70s and with the sun out. So we look forward to that. In about 7 minutes, have the opportunity to watch an interview with Mike Cooper. Mike is the chairman of the Strategic Military Council here for Oklahoma. Basically, he is our military liaison for the city of Enid and spends a lot of time in Washington, D.C. He was in Enid here this week, had a chance to sit down and talk with Mike about some of the projects that he was working on, and that's coming up at 8 o'clock this morning. It's about a 30-minute visit full of information from Mike Cooper, so hopefully you can stay and do that. Okay, Aaron.
Yep. If you watched the video a little bit earlier about adopting a pet and you think you are up for the responsibility, we have Mickey, I think it's a lab mix kind of dog, with Charlotte. So take it away, Charlotte.
Hi, good morning. Today we have Mickey. Mickey is in pen 29. He is a 5-month-old lab mix. He's a very playful and energetic puppy. He's really loving and sweet, and he's looking for a new home. So come by and meet Mickey today.
talking about hypertension or hyperactive, that puppy dog, give the dog some medication before you take it home. No, that's the way you want them. You want them full of energy. 249-4910. And through the years, you've been so good to adopt a lot of pets, and we appreciate that.
Yes, and Charlotte's done a really great job too. She's wonderful. So back on the topic of strokes,
Yes.
Is there anything people can do to help reduce their risk of getting a stroke?
Most definitely.
In 30 minutes or less?
Yeah. Honestly, it begins with just having regular checkups with your primary care provider, other specialists, getting the tests done that are recommended. And like I said earlier, if you're a smoker, oh boy, please stop. Major risk factor. If you've been prescribed medications for hypertension or high cholesterol, be faithful to take those medications. If you're on a blood thinner for a heart rhythm issue, be faithful with that. Living a healthy lifestyle is a significant risk reduction. So none of that is a waste.
And that all ties in, Matthew, to my next question about foods that are involved. I'm sure the proper diet, stay away from the fatty foods, I guess, and grease and fried things, stuff like that. But are there foods that are recommended? You know, we've had different individuals talking about diet here on the show through the years, but when in relationship to stroke, is there something that you recommend?
No, I think what you just said is probably kind of encapsulates
Just the
that.
overall diet.
There is not a magic food that is going to prevent strokes, but again, limiting the fat content in what we eat, the simple carbohydrates, so that we maintain a healthy weight, we maintain a healthy cholesterol level. Those sorts of things are certainly significant.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've asked you a bunch of questions so far today, but is there anything that we missed that you would want to tell us, a big factor of strokes, or anything that people might want to know about them?
I honestly, I would just reiterate those basic symptoms, those warning signs, you know, the asymmetry. If you are concerned that you are in the throes of a stroke or impending stroke, look and see whether or not your smile is symmetrical, whether or not closing your eyes is symmetrical, whether or not the strength of your hands is symmetrical, whether or not you're having any difficulty with speech, and don't wait around to see how that evolves. You know, it is simply not worth it. Once that brain tissue has been damaged, recovery is limited and a big challenge. So time is of the essence.
Matthew, you've shared a lot of information this morning, and I was just curious, we have such a diverse country.
Yeah.
Is strokes, from a medical perspective, higher in the northern part of the country versus the southern part, the southeast, the west? I mean, has there been any studies to say, you know, if you live in the southwest part of the U.S., there seems to be more?
There is
heart
limited
disease.
information on that, and
I'm just curious.
But southeast does have a slightly higher incidence of strokes than the other parts of the country. Yeah.
Interesting.
Just don't ask me why.
Okay. I will not ask you why. Let's get the information, if we can, on the screen. It's probably been up during our interview, where we can reach out to Matthew. You can see his phone number right there. And he's been a wealth of information. Matthew, thank you so much for being here. And we appreciate helping us with a very important topic.
Indeed it is.
Topic of since May is Stroke Awareness Month. Okay. Time to say goodbye.
Yes. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and have a wonderful Mother's Day. Thank you to all the mothers out there. Make it a great day.